Hello. Hey, everybody. Today, we're going to talk about, do you ever feel like you are not doing enough? Quite an interesting topic. I'm going to roll my intro and I'll be right back, okay? Boom. Let's do this. Hey. Okay, so this is a big topic. So have you ever felt like this? Say hi to Sit Squatch, by the way. He's a little bit higher today. Okay, we'll put him down a little closer. So the reason why we're talking about this is because, so have you ever just had that feeling like you just can't keep up? Let me put the banner on here. I should be able to see when people are commenting now. Like I said, it's so strange because I can't see who's watching. I can just see how many people are watching. So millions. Oh, got a comment. So probably Pam, my trusty, reliable. Yay. Oh, okay. Hey, Katy, this is a great topic. I think it will totally, it will totally relate. Yeah, I think so too, Pam. Oh, sorry, didn't put it up there. There you go. Hello. So I've been debating. I need some advice on how this Kandor with Katy should go too, but we'll talk about that later. Okay. So have you just ever felt like you can't keep up? So no matter what you accomplish, your brain keeps reminding you about everything you haven't done, right? So today I had one of those days. And I almost didn't do this podcast. And I wasn't just tired. I felt overwhelmed. Okay. And so instead of just telling myself to push through, I started thinking, I got a little curious. And I thought, well, why do so many people feel this way? And so I found 3 psychological concepts that made me feel seen, for lack of a better word. And so maybe you've heard of them before, maybe you haven't, but every one of them made me stop and think, wait, that explains a lot. So I will share the websites. Well, here's what I did. Here's one of them, the Zeigarnik Effect. And what I did was I put their thing in here so you can screenshot. Okay. And then the next one I have is decision fatigue, but this one was too long, so I had to make it a bit.ly thing. So screenshot that, if you will. And then the last one was completing a stress cycle. And this is a long one as well, but you could probably just look up these things and find these articles. Okay. So I just kind of like briefed them and took a look because I thought there's got to be a lot more people feeling like I am. So the Zeigarnik Effect, hopefully I'm saying this right, I don't know. Back in the 1920s, there was a psychologist named Bluma Zeigarnik, okay, who noticed that restaurant workers could remember unpaid orders incredibly well, but once the bill was paid, they forgot the details almost immediately. And I can I don't know if I can attest to this because like when I was a server bartender, taking an order, I could remember everything and put it in correctly, but then when it was done, you forget about it. But then once you went and looked at them again, you're like, okay, you remember the seat numbers and all that stuff. But explained simply then is that our brains are wired to keep unfinished things active. So doesn't that kind of make sense? So in other words, your brain doesn't like loose ends. So if something isn't finished, it keeps nudging you, like saying, hey, don't forget. And that's great when you need to remember something important. But when you have 50 unfinished things, it can make you feel like you're constantly behind, even if you've accomplished a lot. So have any of you ever felt this way? Okay. So it's not just projects or emails or phone call or laundry, doctor appointments, that text you forgot to answer, the thing you said you'd research. Well, it's all of it. Your brain is carrying all of it. So maybe the reason I feel behind or you feel behind or we feel behind isn't because we're doing too little. It's because our brains refuse to let go of those things that are unfinished. So are you like me? Are you already thinking of 3 things that you forgot today? And if I'm like driving and someone texts me or calls me and says, call me later, I will totally forget. And then at the end of the day, you start thinking about all of these things. Okay. So then I started thinking and I started wondering, if my brain is tracking every unfinished task, what happens if I've made hundreds of decisions all day long. What happens? Well, that's where decision fatigue comes in. So researchers estimate that we make hundreds of decisions every day. Like I said, not just the big ones, the tiny ones, like the emails. Should I call this client? What's for dinner? Should I work out? Should I post today? Should I go throw? Every little decision costs mental energy. And eventually, your brain starts conserving fuel, which makes sense, right? And it's not because you're lazy, or because you're exhausted. It's just sometimes we think we're out of motivation because we're really just out of decisions, if that makes sense, because we have so many decisions to make. So the decision fatigue is described in that article as a predictable response when your brain's executive functions have been working non-stop. So it's like, I don't know what I could relate this to. Like I heard one time that horses will run until they die. Like if they're out in the wild or whatever, if somebody's like riding them, if it's like some kind of thing. And that's strange, right? So like maybe your brains they keep working because you've just been doing this stuff all day and they just need something, right? So this explains why you feel mentally exhausted, like today or any other day that you feel it. But there's still one piece missing, right? Why do I still feel stressed sometimes after I stop working? Do you ever feel like that? And this is where the completing the stress cycle comes in. And this is a really interesting concept, okay? It is something I didn't know. Finishing your work isn't the same thing as finishing your stress. I love it when I find these things because I've never really thought about it in that exact way. So your body needs a signal that says, we're safe now. And sometimes that comes through walking, laughing, crying, exercising, journaling, deep breathing, music, talking to someone, holding someone, being held, being with people who feel safe, petting your pet sitting. Just think of it this way. Your brain has two different jobs. One, managing your tasks. Two, keeping you alive. And those aren't always on the same page, right? Oh, good. I have a comment. Hanging out with friends. Exactly. Can't wait. Pretty soon, a bunch of us are going to be hanging out in the Netherlands because we're exciting. Okay, so let's just say, so when they're not on the same page because your brain's managing your tasks and keeping you alive, let's just say you spent the whole day putting out fires. You're answering your text, you're calling your clients, you're taking care of your parents maybe, you're running errands, you're making decisions, you're meeting deadlines, and it's 7:00 and you're finally done. Sorry. I should call this the burping podcast. Your calendar says you're done. Your to-do list says you're done. But your nervous system has spent the entire day flooded with stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol, and it doesn't automatically know that threat has passed. So from your body's perspective, it's been on high alert all day. This is a lot like being ADHD, I think. So you sit on the couch expecting to find relief, and instead you still feel restless or tense or like you should be doing something. How many of you get up and down and do all the things, right? And it's like your body's saying, hey, man, are you sure that we're safe to relax? Because we have been running all day, like all freaking day, right? And so that's why some people can't sit after a busy day. I'm one of them a lot of the time. You're one of them, I'm sure. You pick up your phone, you start cleaning, you check your email one more time, you think of 10 more things that you should have done, and your body has not fully shifted out of that alert mode. Okay? So if you can think about it this way, your body's like a smoke alarm. If you burn some toast or you burn your lasagna in the oven, your smoke alarm goes off, right? But it doesn't instantly stop the alarm. Like you open the window, it's not going to instantly stop that alarm. It needs a moment to realize like that smoke is gone. Our bodies can work the same way, okay? Just because the stressful part of the day is over, it doesn't mean our nervous system immediately gets the message. So that was a light bulb moment for me because I have definitely had nights where I'm like, why can't I just relax? And I struggled today. And I was like, okay, but I haven't done Kandor with Katy in 2 weeks. And I mean, for the dozens of people that watch, I actually get more people on Facebook than the YouTubes. But maybe that'll shift. I don't know. So you just think, okay, so why can't I just relax? Well, maybe your body just hasn't got the message that the stressful part of the day is over. So I don't know about you, but that made a lot of sense to me. And then another thing that comes up is, what do we do when the list doesn't get finished? Because I think, honestly, that happens for a lot of us. It never does. So I don't think the answer is to pretend that we don't have responsibilities. But it's not expecting ourselves to finish everything every single day either. Every single thing, every single day. So here's a mindset shift. Are you ready for this one? It's called the done list. So one thing I'm trying to pay attention to is what I did accomplish, or I'm going to start paying attention to, instead of what I did not get done. So maybe I had 20 people to call. Maybe I called 10, but I got somebody under contract, or I went and showed a house, or I talked to a seller, and I made communication with someone else, and I made dinner for, all the things, right? So instead of paying attention to what you didn't get done, pay attention to what you did get done. And our brains naturally focus on those unfinished tasks. That's normal, but it doesn't mean that we have to join in. Okay. So if we can redefine success as it's not getting everything done, it's getting the right things done. So there's always going to be laundry. There's always going to be emails. There's always going to be one more thing. Maybe instead of asking yourself, why didn't I finish everything? Ask, did I spend my time on what mattered most today? They're two very different questions. Okay, so even if the list isn't finished, let's say, maybe we need a ritual to tell our brains that the workday is over. So this could look something like writing tomorrow's priorities on paper, closing your laptop, going for a walk, reading a chapter of a book, having tea, calling a friend, stretching for 5 minutes and meditating, whatever that is for you. Okay. The ritual doesn't finish the work. It just tells your brain, hey, we'll pick this back up tomorrow. And that alone can reduce the feeling that everything is still hanging over you. So like, I'm going to do this tonight. I'm going to write down the things that I did get done. I'm going to write down things that made me feel more accomplished. Like I almost didn't do Kandor with Katy. I literally just put this together like 2 hours ago because I was like, and I had something ready that was funny, and I was just feeling off and feeling frustrated and feeling unaccomplished. And that's how this all came about, right? So that's one thing I like, is that I can put something together very quickly. And this is a topic I really wanted to talk about, and I was kind of excited about it. So I did spend time reading those articles and summarizing them a little bit. And let's think about this, okay? The goal isn't to get to the end of the list. It's to get to the end of the day, knowing that we did what we could with the time and energy we had. There's always going to be another responsibility. There may not always be another Tuesday or another dinner with a friend. You just don't know. Or another quiet evening to let your nervous system breathe. And yeah, I'm certainly not saying this because I mastered it, right? I'm saying it because I needed a reminder today. Did any of you? So let's talk about final thoughts. Let me find. Oh, Pam, I'm sorry, I didn't see these. Taking trips to foreign countries helps with stress. Adding to it and taking it away. Yeah, so that's why I made the decision. Like, so you got to think about, you get a lot of pressure from outside people in this hustle culture, and you got to go, and you got to build, and you got to do all this to do this until retirement, and then you can travel, and then you can do that. But you know what? We're not promised the next minute. So, I was thinking about this too, because I read a thing about a lady who was like 70, and she was doing like triathlons and doing all these things, and she was close to retirement and was making all of these plans for retirement and saving all of this money and never going anywhere. And then she got cancer and she died, and she never got to do any of it. Right? So I think this is going to be helpful. It's going to be helpful for me, hopefully for you. Pam says, most of my stress is from someone else. LOL, family, work, stupid drivers. Drivers drive me insane, especially in Phoenix. They're terrible. Yeah, it's true. And then I was thinking about it today, and I was like, man, some of this stuff is just out of my control. Why am I worrying so much? Right? Okay, I got to find my final thoughts here. Dun, dun, dun. Let me find my banner. Yeah, final thoughts. What do you know? Maybe the next time you catch yourself thinking, I just can't keep up, maybe pause before you assume you're failing. Just pause. Maybe your brain is remembering every unfinished task. Remind yourself of that. Maybe you've made hundreds of decisions that day, even if it's 10 decisions. Maybe there were big freaking decisions. Maybe your nervous system is still trying to protect you. I was on pins and needles today. Hey, you're not broken. You're just human, right? So I needed the reminder today. So here's what I want to know. Here's my question, okay? Here's my big question. I want you to drop this in the comments below, and I'm going to say it again. Have you ever had the feeling that no matter how much you accomplish, you just can't keep up? I really, truthfully, I want to know, and I want to know the stories, okay? And if you're comfortable sharing, and if you found something that helps you reset, please, 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 I would genuinely love to hear that too. Drop it in the comments below, okay? So, Sit Squatch and his tiny hiney would love it if you would subscribe. It will make him very happy, okay? Yeah. And the journey begins with you, so be good to yourself. And this is part of it. So take some time today and think about all the things that you did right and you did accomplish, okay? Because that's me. I love you. I'll see you next week. Oh, and I need ideas. I was thinking about doing taped podcasts, but that's just like YouTube, right? And I'm like, I don't know if people will watch. I mean, the dozens of people that watch. So I need some advice. If anybody has some time and maybe wants to mastermind with me a little bit, I would love that. Okay. See you next Tuesday. I will see you next. Oh, that kind of sounds weird. I will see you next week. Bye.